Hello my sweet little potatoes. Today I'm going to show you how to time edit guitars. This applies to things other than guitars, and I'm doing it in Studio One, but it works in any DAW. Welcome to the Producer Place. My name is Nick Rollo. I'm a producer and mixing engineer from Australia. I hope you're doing great today. Before we get into it, I would just like to say time aligning, time editing, this stuff is the most painful thing ever. It sucks. It's probably my least favorite task as a producer and a mixing engineer. However, it is one of the few things that I think bears the most fruit. Long way of saying it's really rewarding if you do it right for a song. So this is a song that I'm working on for my friend, and I'm not going to play his vocals because it's not finished, it's not released. I think I can get away with a bit of guitars. Inside of this conversation, it's important to think about one, like how natural do I want it to sound, because you might want it to have flaws in timing, that could be fine. The second is, what are you going to base it off? Are you going to just do time aligning to the metronome? Are you going to do it to the drums? That's also important. You want relativity in some cases. I'm going to do it to the drums and the metronome, partly because the drums are just quantized, they're fake drums, so they're perfect, and I think it just kind of adds a little bit more context, and I think context is important when we're trying to time align things. So I've already done a fair bit of guitar. You can see my cuts. I've done this guitar part here for this section that I've just highlighted. I haven't done the top or the left guitar, so we're going to do that now. Now we have two options to do this in Studio One or in most DAWs. The first is you can use like a detection tool, kind of like Beat Detective in Pro Tools, quantize more or less, so you can analyze it and it'll show you where it thinks all the transients are. Those blue lines are transients. And then you can do a quantize based on that. I like kind of 80% quantize, doing slice instead of quantize because it just sounds a little bit more natural. It doesn't actually wobble stuff. And you can click it, have a listen, see how it's done. Obviously, it's doing a lot of things here. A way to combat that is by just kind of reducing the threshold. That sounds alright. Sometimes it nails it, sometimes it doesn't. I use this tool a lot for drums, and there is a whole technique for that for acoustic drums. I can make a video of it. I think I watched someone else's video. They nailed it for Studio One. Like, it's really good. I'll link it below if I remember. I'm kind of rambling. For this, we're doing it by hand. Sometimes you just got to do it. It sucks, but you know, it is what it is. So what I'm going to do is get the drums, get my click on, and pretty much I'm just going to look at it and listen to it, and when something goes out, I'm going to cut. Alright, so this part's okay. It kind of got a bit funky here, so I'll just do a slice, and I'll do the first movement there because it kind of, that was less out than the next parts. As you can see, this is out, these are out, that's out. This is getting better. Here it kind of comes back in. My general philosophy with this is do the least amount of cuts that you can. So if there's a big chunk that's all out, just shift it together. It'll maintain kind of a vibe of the take because it's still mostly the take. It's just all shifted. So the less you do, the better, in my opinion. It doesn't always work out how you'd like it, but hopefully it generally does. So cut there, did a big cut, we'll shift it that much. Let's have a look. So that's in. I'm just looking based on my eyes, and that's fine. Just make sure you listen to it after to actually hear what you've done. That's pretty good. This gets a little bit far out by the looks of it, so let's just listen. So if anything that's a little bit rushed, I'm just going to shift it back the other way. So, and what I'm doing is I've got toggle snap on. I'm just holding it, and then I'm holding shift to do like a fine movement that doesn't snap to grid. Okay, that feels good. This cut here, I'm just going to crossfade, so just drag it over, press X. I think that's generally the crossfade key command for everyone. And then let's just listen to that. And I'll solo it. Sometimes you want to just pull it beyond it just to hear what it sounded like before, hear how the strum worked. Okay. That's pretty clean. This is really trial and error, and you get better at it with time, making it sound less like you've cut it. If you do it badly, you'll hear the two takes kind of overlapping, and it does like a weird. It doesn't sound like that, but it does a weird thing. The better you get at it, the more you figure out how to not do that. Sometimes you do that by doing a big crossfade, sometimes by doing a tiny crossfade, sometimes you just cut it and there's nothing there. It really just is a case by case thing. Oh, there's a little clip there, make sure to crossfade it. Okay, so a few things here. Firstly, that gets funky, so we'll come back to that after. All of this is kind of out, so I apologize for my zooming in and zooming out. Ignore that. Okay, and so this next part starts pretty good, so I'm just going to quickly deal with that. Crossfade it, and you just kind of want to figure out where to bring it in, and that's probably it there. That'll work for now. Right, so that's a really clear kind of problem point. It does that kind of stutter, so we're just gonna let's pull it back a little bit, see how that feels. It's not better. Maybe a bit better. I'll do a smaller crossfade. Smaller crossfades can be good. That, not so much. Let's try a larger one, see if that blends it better. I can kind of hear it, but it's not too bad. So that was, it takes a long time. This is a pretty slow process, and I know this video is not like the most engaging video ever made because, it's this. Let's have a listen to them together. I've done the other side already. Let's see if they kind of cancel each other out, because that's sometimes why I like having doubles, is they kind of cancel the problems out in each other, especially if you've edited them. It just gives you a little bit of like, if one's doing something weird, hopefully the other's not. Our attention can't be split very nicely, so that works out. Oh, that was weird. I guess that's just applying. That's kind of weird though. We could always cut that. Doesn't really sound very smooth though. So the right side I've done a little bit lazy. There's a few little moments. Don't know where that came from. I must have accidentally done a few when I made that one bigger, I must have made a few bigger. Okay, it's getting better. Maybe not quite perfect, but let's just listen with drums and bass. So I've already aligned the bass. Hopefully, again, context. It'll make it sound better. There you go. I'll quickly spend a few moments just checking out this next part because it's more of a picky part. We'll see how that goes. The general principle here is you just want it to be on the grid. You want to make as few cuts as you can because it'll make it sound more natural and cohesive, and just double check your work. You usually miss something. I messed it up after the fact somehow, so make sure you go back and listen and look, because it's super easy to make mistakes doing this kind of stuff, I find. And attention and patience is really the key. So for this, because it's a picky part, sometimes pick parts are easier to use this analyzer. So it kind of seems to get it pretty good just by looking at it. Let's have a look. I'm just going to solo it. It's sometimes hard to tell if it's doing a good or a bad thing. For the sake of the video, let's just quickly have a look. So here goes out. As you can see, it's a bit ahead here, and it stays ahead, it stays ahead, it stays ahead until maybe that's kind of questionable. Let's just assume that's in. Don't have to do it by heaps. Crossfade it. I get that kind of weird sound that I try to avoid. That part there was probably also out, so I can kind of keep pushing it. I just try to push it until something's in line, and then I stop and kind of come back to it. So there's a few cuts there that don't sound very nice, like this one. Because as you can see, it was right on the point where the hit used to be. So I need to push it earlier. What did it actually sound like? So there is a bit of that kind of double pick thing. That might be okay. That one is not okay. I could probably get away with pushing this after it, to be honest. Or bringing it earlier. You kind of get the idea. It's kind of a fiddly process, but that is how you time edit guitars. This works for vocals, this works for pretty much everything. There are slightly different processes for each thing, but this should kind of guide you in the right direction. The cleaner the signal is, as in the less distortion and effects, the easier it is to get away with stuff, especially if you're processing afterwards. That just makes life a little bit easier. If you made it this far, there's a bunch of freebies linked below, such as a free vocal mixing cheat sheet. There's some free Studio One presets, some courses, etc., other things. Hope you enjoy. If you are looking for a mixing engineer or a producer, you can also check out some of my work below. And have a great day. I'll catch you next video. Goodbye.